Dante's Divine Comedy, Inferno, Canto the 15th. There was a desert.
Oh, that's right, with the river flowing through it. That was the same blood river from earlier. Yeah. The blood river was flowing into the desert from the forest or whatever, right? And the desert had a bunch of people walking through it who were, like, getting their feet burned by the sands and everything.
And the fire raining from the sky.
And the fire raining. Oh, yes, that's pretty important detail. Yeah, fire raining from the sky. There was banks of the river, right, where there was nothing, where there was no fire falling or whatever.
So they set out to start traveling along this ridge, and for reference, this stone thing is like as high as a man, so it's not like it's level with the sand. It's like they're walking on a very high ledge. They walk for quite a distance at a point where they are so far in that they can barely see the forest behind them. A couple souls walk up to them, and one of them actually recognizes Dante. Dante kind of like crouches down and like looks real close at his face. He almost can't recognize him because his skin has been burned so much. But after a second, he realizes he knows who this is. And this is a man named Sir Brunetto. Brunetto was some kind of famous guy. A lot of people liked him. He wrote poems. The poems he wrote influenced Dante's style a lot. He had some sort of function within the legal system. So I picture this guy as kind of like some sort of cultural leader that just a lot of people liked.
It's interesting how much of a coincidence it is that he keeps running into people he knows. Like, with so many people there.
I've thought about that.
You'd think that maybe there's a huge chance he would never meet anybody he knows. But
the amount of people he meets from Florence is just insane. So Brunetto asks if he can walk next to Dante for a little bit as they're walking forward along this ridge to get further into hell. Dante's like, we don't have to walk. Let's just stand here and talk to each other here. So here's what Brunetto says. "My son," he said, "whoever of this train pauses a moment must lie 100 years forbidden to brush off the burning rain." So the reason so many people are walking is because those people, if they ever stop and stand still for a little bit, they're forced to lay down for 100 years.
Good grief.
And they just have to sit there and get burned for 100 years. And Dante's like, okay, that's fair. So he talks a little bit, and then Brunetto delivers a prophecy, and he prophesies how Dante's countrymen are going to turn against him. Again, this is something that has happened to Dante by the time he's writing this, but it hasn't happened to the character yet.
Right.
So Dante said, yeah, I've had a couple prophecies that were like that, but I'll take that to heart. And Virgil actually compliments him for that. He's like, that's very wise of you.
It is kind of almost like a pat on the back that he has Virgil, one of his literary heroes, compliment him in his own story.
I didn't think of it that way. I'm sure there's a somewhat more significant way to interpret it, but that'd be like, that is kind of funny.
Be like me writing about Patrick Warburton or something, and then being like, Patrick Warburton told me I did a good job, but like in the story about myself.
Yeah. Patrick Warburton just turns and gives you a whole paragraph of compliments.
Yeah. Whoa, Peter, you're doing really well.
Brunetto lists a couple of the other people with him, and it's not particularly interesting. Again, if you were from Florence, you'd be like, oh yeah, I know who those people are, and I can see why they're in this layer of hell. So there are a couple sins that Dante clearly places within Inferno, but he doesn't talk about, because he just thinks they're so disgusting he doesn't want to talk about them. One of them further down will be cannibalism, or so I'm told. He's not going to mention that the cannibalists are here, but they're somewhere in hell, so he makes a reference that it's very clear. This is one of those sins where he doesn't talk about it because he would not like to talk about it. But by naming the people he names, everyone would go, ah, yes, I see why these people are here. Okay. These are the Sodomites. So essentially, the people who are here, and if you were alive at the time, you'd know that they are in this layer of hell for. So the kind way of putting it is violence against nature. Another way to put it is sodomy. Roughly speaking, this is where the people who practiced homosexuality went. Now, it's important to note two things. First of all, Dante did not think of people as being homosexual.
Right.
He thought of people as committing homosexuality. This is actually something you even see in most modern-day Christians. Mm-hmm. They differentiate between being gay and engaging in homosexuality. Homosexuality, the identity, and homosexuality, the activity. Yeah. So Dante didn't really have an idea of people being gay. So these people aren't in hell for being gay. It's for engaging in homosexuality. The other thing is, because of who Dante was and what he thought of, what he means by sodomy is almost certainly any oral or anal sex. Even if between heterosexuals.
I was gonna say I was under the impression that it was more for like just sexual deviance in general.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
But then they say that they have to go on, so they start running off into the distance, and Virgil and Dante just continue walking along the ridge. That is the end of Canto the 15th.
Interesting.